This is an older Bricky video. It's like 4 years ago. But it's what's the best Warhammer 40k faction / army to start with, which like sounds like, you know, something that might be useful to us, right? If we ever want to get into the hobby. Yeah, if we ever want to get into it, like this feels like it would make sense.
I must say the support on my prior Warhammer video has been, to put it lightly, absolutely outstanding. I've not had a video perform that well in maybe 3 to 4 years, and it's also a breath of fresh air to be able to make a video on something on a whim, on Warhammer, a, while very popular game, not a game that I ever really made videos on, and
yeah, Bricky's a really good narrator. I'm really enjoying his videos. It makes a lot of sense. Like, what is it? I realistically don't know if I will buy like the tabletop stuff, but I am like genuinely interested. Like, eventually I might learn it. As of right now though, I feel like actually buying the stuff would be like too much. The plastic crack's so expensive. Fuck. It's more expensive than Yu-Gi-Oh! Wait, what? Guys, do you guys think my wallet can handle it? I feel like the only one that I want to build are the Imperial Fists. No, okay, it's too expensive. Never mind, we'll just watch the video on it and we'll live vicariously. We will live vicariously through the people who actually spend their hard-earned money on this shit. I am a brokey.
Have it perform as well as it does. You know, YouTube and the YouTube world doesn't like change very much, so it is incredibly heartwarming. But with that, it also came with a question that was always being asked to me ever since making that video. Hey, Bricky, what army should I play? For this, my next major Warhammer video, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to go over all the different kinds of armies, just like we went with the main video, except instead of lore, we're going to be going through the different various ways of collecting the army, as in not only price-wise, but how many models you're going to need.
Yeah, tell me, Bricky.
How old the model scopes are, and we're going to be going over the play styles of each army respectively. Are they melee? Are they shooting? Are they a little bit of both? Elite armies with only 20 models on the battlefield, or horde armies with 120 models on the battlefield? We're going to be just
120? Excuse me, what? What if I just wanted the little guy? What if I just wanted like a little guy? Just a dude. Oh my god.
Discussing all of those, what each army is about, and give you at least a decent run through of every single faction to allow you to make the conscious and intelligent choice on which army you want to play if you want to get on top of Warhammer 40,000. But first, before we start, I need to show you something. So I own an absolute like boatload of wall art all across my house I've received from cons. And so when I was contacted by Displate to sponsor this video, it was like immediate yes. Anyway, I wanted to show you the ones I got because Displate is the sponsor for this video. The first one is a wonderful one from the Coen brothers, No Country for Old Men.
No, stop. I watched this movie on the plane and like the first scene where he does that thing with the gas tank, right? Like the lady sitting like next to me was like, could you not watch that right now? And I was like, I guess.
This is probably my favorite movie of all time because I am a messed up human being and I like the dark, depressing shit. However, this one, I love it. It's very simplistic and it shows off the simplistic poster art that I tend to enjoy a lot. Now, past that, I actually got one for my mother because she is a huge Stephen King fan, so I got this fan.
No, stop. That is a choice. That is actually a choice. Hold on. Why would you give your Bricky, please, Bricky. Why would you give your mom that?
One to go along with it, and the third one I got.
I feel bad. We're like judging him.
Vadi Vidya, you may know him. He did Dark Souls content and well, From Software content in general. And he has. I can't show you it right now because I got the extra large version because I wanted the big one of his. It is an absolute like gorgeous piece. Is just as nice looking.
Oh, that shit looks really nice.
Now it comes to my surprise that after I order 3 separate disc plates to go along with the sponsorship, I immediately receive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra ones and then change. And I kind of start realizing why they wanted a Warhammer video so much. Orcs. Gotta have orcs, sisters of battle. We'll be talking plenty about them today. Angels of death in all their glory. More angels of death.
I want the orcs one.
And a Drukhari. I don't know what this is. Is it an Archon? It might be an Archon. I don't play Drukhari, but obviously Dark Eldar. I know the spikes. I get the spikes. I love the fact that you can just slap it onto your wall with a magnet with no fuss, and especially for someone who was renting a place, and I know a lot of you have had those experiences with landlords where you try to hang up wall art, you put a nail into the wall, and they're like, oh, Ooh, is that a 2mm hole I see right there? That's $300 out of your security deposit, kid. So thank you very much
What?
for sponsoring this video. I would highly recommend checking them out. They make absolutely fantastic stuff. So check them out, they're in the description, and let us continue with the video, starting off with a couple terminology we should learn before we actually get super deep into it. First things first, there's a thing called Forge World. Forge World is actually a lore thing with the
Okay.
However, what it is actually a partner to Games Workshop. Forge World makes
No, stop. It's $121. How big is it? It better be one of the big fuckers, not one of the little guys. If it's one of the little guys and you gotta buy like 10 of them, that's like $1,000.
Codexes specifically, however, you can use them in your games. They're just generally expensive, kind of a little bit weirder. They're a little bit more bizarre and sometimes like fan-made creations and such. But Forge is like a side company of Games Workshop that makes 40K. I might mention them a few times. I wanted to go ahead and tell you about that. They're not used a ton, but they are something that you can use. Next, I want to tell you about hitting numbers. So if I ever say something like, oh, this army hits on 3s or 4s or 5s, what I'm saying is if they hit on 3s, that means if you roll a d6 and you throw it out there, if you get a 3, 4, 5, or 6, anything 3 or higher, then you hit your shot. You've landed onto your target. If I say they hit on 4s, it's 4 and up, 5, etc. And finally, we have things called stratagems. I'm going to mention those a few times. Stratagems are like special abilities you can use after having a pool of command points that you get for building your army, and you can kind of dole those out, these special abilities, stratagems, as you wish. You ever played Command & Conquer, Red Alert 3, or perhaps Wrath? My personal favorite was always Kane's Wrath. You know those little abilities on the side of the map? It's like those. Let's start off. Number one, best army you should collect for a new player, Space Marines. Before we get into tactics, before we get into how they play, I want to remind you all of the most important rule, the golden rule of collecting Warhammer.
Hell yeah.
You will always have a better time with the army whose lore you like and design you prefer.
You know, that's so true. Wait,
are the coolest.
I have a genuine question, guys. Is there a meta in Warhammer? Is there actually like a meta? Like, oh, this army is way better than the other armies? Yeah? Really? Damn. Always has been? Ooh. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this is a really expensive hobby to have like metas. Cause like, I mean, I play MOBAs, right? I play MOBAs, I play fucking card games. There's always meta. There's always like meta defining stuff, right? But having to hate an army to suit the meta would be like insanely frustrating and like annoying, right?
If you like undead Egyptian space robots,
not
have
you.
enslaved gods as weapons, buy the damn Necrons. I don't care if Necrons are S tier or F tier, buy the damn Necrons, okay? If you love Viking aesthetic and you love Space Marines, get the damn Space Wolves. I don't care if they're S tier or F tier, get the army that you love the lore and the design of first. Nothing sucks more than playing a meta army that some people might not even want to play you against because you're going super power gamer and having to paint and create an army that you don't like. Play the army you think is the coolest.
That makes so much sense.
Okay, Space Marines. So the poster boys of Warhammer are our first faction today, and I know when I said that the best army to collect, all the new players are like, oh god, not the Space Marines, the generic ones, and all the veteran players are gonna say, oh god, not more Space Marines.
But they're
players
the
I gotta deal
boys.
with. And the tournament players are already ready to hire a hitman to kill me. But I'm sorry, I know, I agree, Space Marines are, whew, right now, but they really are the best army. If you are a new player, Space Marine.
You know what's the thing? I fully do believe that like Warhammer is like the guys kind of game, right? Not memeing a tournament ready army is like 802k USD depending on army, but unlike Yu-Gi-Oh, the army can last you 5 to 20 years. You also have some money. Wait, okay, Warhammer people in the chat, okay? Warhammer people in the chat. Real question. Real question. When it comes to Warhammer, right, are there tournaments for it? What are the prize pools? Because we know the prize pools for Yu-Gi-Oh are not the best, right? We know the prize pools for Yu-Gi-Oh are not the best. What are the prize pools for Warhammer? If there are tournaments. Yeah, because if the Warhammer guys didn't know, in a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, right? If you win like the top, like you literally win like the tournament, the top tournament, right? You get a Nintendo Switch and an air fryer. and like a really big card that you can eventually sell, but then you're gonna have to like, you know, sell the card, so it's kind of annoying. But then you also get an air fryer. You can't make a living. You can't make a living on like Warhammer tournament prize pool. One guy won a full Tyranids army on last year's LVO. Do you guys think that like, okay, so do you think that the cost to enter a tournament, like, and when I say cost to enter, I mean including like your building your army, the paint, all that kind of thing. Do you think that it is justifiable to the cost of like, you know, winning in the tournament? Also, I just have another question, right? So if you play in like a tournament, does that mean you have to bring like all these like little guys with you? Like you have to bring like 100 of these little guys with you, or like 50 of these little guys with you? Oh, it's for brownie points then. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cause I was thinking like, you know how like there are tournaments where it's like Pokemon, where, you know, the deck is maybe like $60, but then the prize pool is like 200K. You bring your army? Wouldn't that be... Oh, I am a really clumsy person, and I feel like if I weren't careful, I might accidentally like squash one of my guys. That'd be really stressful. You know what? That makes a lot of sense. They have king kits. They do? No way. That's actually kind of... The fact that they're carrying kits is kind of funny. They're really monetizing like a lot of aspects of this. So it's like a Nintendo Switch case then with like the straps. That's what I was thinking. Like if you crush like one of your little guys, that'd be like really sad. Like, you know, during like you're going to a tournament and you crush one of them and you're like, oh fuck, well, I have one army that only has like 5 models. Does it win though? Like only 5? That's what glue is for? I feel like even with glue though, like, because I used to cosplay, right? And like we used to put like contact cement on like props and stuff like that. But that shit would still break eventually. I remember seeing like a picture of one of the armies, and there was this like one guy with the big old fucking wings, and I was like, wow, you know, that looks cool, but I would never take that out of the house because I feel like if I were to transport this anywhere, right, the wing might break off or something like that.
Marines are your best bet. They are the best army to collect if you are a new player, and let me tell you why. Number 1, Space Marines got all the lore. They got a monopoly on lore. They have the most fleshed out backgrounds of any of the characters or factions in Warhammer. Space Marines have the most books. Space Marines are a huge part of the Horus Heresy. Just Space Marines will always have the most, and they have the most depth to them. Number 2, Space Marines are very easy to paint, especially for new players. When you get Space Marines, you have a ton of variety of chapters, and they all have a ton variety of colors. And they're also pretty easy. Space Marines are also very large, or at least larger than normal, so their canvas size is much bigger. Smooth armor, much easier to paint, especially their vehicles. And the paint schemes are easy. Ultramarines, blue, White Scar, white, Imperial Fist, yellow, Salamanders, green. It's extremely easy to paint, so I would highly recommend them for that specific part because the painting and building is a massive part of this hobby. Number 3, Marines are always getting new models. They are always getting equal attention from Games Workshop. Even if they have just been updated, they will get updated again and again and again. And the Harlequins and Dark Eldar players are crying in a corner, but we don't care about them because I got a new Primaris Lieutenant and he's got a skull shield.
Really?
They're always getting new models, and while it might be a little excessive at times, they will always be updated and your rules will always be changing, and therefore it keeps it very fresh if you're interested in playing them. Number 4, you have a vast amount of data sheets and units at your disposal. See, in a codex, you have a part after all the lore of it, after some of the keywords and art pieces and stuff, you have the data sheet section where it goes over all of your units and what they do and their stats and everything, their special rules and so on. And when you get to that spot, however many units an army has depends on, well, you know, how many pages of data sheets is it. Take the Adeptus Custodes. They have a very small amount of units, and their standard codex of data sheets is only 11 pages long. Sisters of Battle, however, a little more medium force. They have 19 pages of data sheets. The Imperial Guard, they have a much, much larger amount of data sheets because they're such a large army. They have 39 pages of data sheets. Space Marines, 56.
Bro, stop. Be for reals. No way. Ain't no 56? 56? And I wanted to play these guys? Oh man, this is so sad. You know, when I play Yu-Gi-Oh, I barely ever remember what I just did, like what I just played in the previous round. 56 pages for the Space Marines, I don't think I'm gonna remember jack shit, dude. Oh, fuck. That's insane.
56 pages of data sheets for different kinds of units. It's a little bloated at times because of the amount of characters and stuff, but still, they are all over the place. Their variety is endless, and it is being even more updated and added as time goes on. Which brings me to number 5, and the most important of them all. Space Marines use every phase of the game. See, in Warhammer, there are phases in each turn. We're just getting into 9th edition, so we're getting something called the command phase soon, which is fine. But then we have the movement phase, psychic phase, shooting phase, the charge, fight, and then morale phase. Now, the last 3 are kind of all packed into one, if I'm being perfectly honest, but the main thing is that a lot of armies might utilize some of these phases a lot more often than expected. Grey Knights are very big in the psychic phase because they're all psychers, and so they really have a lot there, while Tau don't have any psychers, and they won't even use that phase, but they've got really damn good shooting. However, they don't have any melee, so they're not going to be using the charge phase, whereas, say, Slaanesh Demons will use the charge and psychic phase plenty, but they won't be doing any shooting of, like, any kind, pretty much. The Marines, they will use every single phase, and you can't get good at the game and get good at the phases unless you're able to use all of them. And that's where Space Marines really shine. You can play them however you want in any kind of role. See, if you are running, let's say, an Iron Hands or Imperial Fist army, these are both shooting-based armies.
Yeah.
But you can still have good melee. Where if you wanted to play a more melee-based army like Space Wolves or Blood Angels, you'd still have good shooting units. You could still do plenty in the shooting phase. That's the most important part. Space Marines will use every single phase, and they are very, very good at it. So that is the main 5 reasons why you should be playing, or at least you should try collecting Space Marines. And I know I don't need more Space Marines in tournaments, but it is the best decision. They're good to paint, they're good to collect, they're always getting updated, they got tons of units, they use every phase, and you can tailor them however you'd like.
Do you guys agree that Space Marines are the most like beginner friendly? I mean, I'm gonna be for reals with you guys. I don't think I would ever take part in like a tournament for stuff like this. Just because, like, I mean, number one, I'm from Singapore. We have like Warhammer communities here. I don't think they're that big. Also, yeah, I don't think they're that big. But also, like, you know, I don't really go out like that, anyways. Almost always Starbucks, so there's almost always units available on the cheap second hand. But do people hate Space Marines though? Is that like a thing that people don't like? Not really. So it's beginner friendly, and it's not something that people are like, oh, another one of these again. So if you're suggesting that me as a newbie barely know anything about this game except the blue guys are kind of cool because I played that one game, Space Marines 2, what color Marine do you suggest I go with? Who cares what you play? Just play what you like, whatever color you want. Ooh, depends on playstyle. Okay, so it really just doesn't matter then. Your favorite? Oh man, can they like drop like a pink Space Marine? Thank you. That's my favorite color. But honestly, I probably built the yellow ones if I could. Probably yellow. No, the yellow ones are my favorite. The red one because they go fast. I thought the white ones were the ones that go fast. Was it the red ones or the white ones that go fast? Emperor's. Okay, you know what? I just realized Emperor's Children are pink, but I don't really like the Emperor's Children. So maybe I'll just do like the white ones.
Plus, and this is kind of down the line, but eventually after playing them enough, you might understand which army you'd want to collect. Collecting a little bit of Space Marines, you start realizing, oh wow, I really think I'd prefer having more models on the table, or I wish I had tougher models. Then you can go for Tyrannus or then Adeptus Custodians. It helps you figure out your second army a lot better. If you're a new player,
that makes sense.
You want to get interested in it, just do this. Go online, get yourself either, or check eBay because there's tons of offhand Marine stuff on eBay. Get yourself a pack of Intercessors or Full Squad. I'd say Intercessors because they're more modern, they're newer and more meta, and they're bigger for better paint canvases. Put them together with some glue, get some paint on them, try them out, and try getting into...
Wait, do you guys actually use Tamiya boxcar like cement glue? That's funny. I love that shit.
to the game that way. I think it'd be a pretty smart and a pretty solid idea to get someone new into the hobby, and Space Marines just really are one of the better choices right now. Okay, now that I'm done sucking as much Marine dick as Yvrain, let's move on to the rest of the armies.
Is that some lore reference? What does that even mean? I love Tamiya boxcars. I think they're cute. I think they're fun. Oh man, that was like some lore reference for sure.
And my personal favorite army at the current moment, the Imperial Guard, or the Estimataire, is fucking the Imperial Guard. The Imperial Guard
Imperial
are my main
Guard!
army. They are what is known as a gunline horde army. Whereas Orcs and Tyranids have a horde army that has shooting but it's more melee based, the Guard is going to be running 60 to 100 infantry men, support walkers, artillery batteries.
Oh, these are the dudes. They're just guys. These are the ones that are just guys. Right? Oh my god, it's a dude army. Let's go. I love them.
Aircraft, drop troops, tanks, bigger tanks. The Guard is all about just blistering firepower. Now, however, the downside to this is that the Guard, while well-trained, are only 4-up well-trained. They hit on 4s, and they also do not have very good survivability. Guard stuff tends to be rather fragile. They very rarely have any special saves to keep them from taking any damage. Most of their stratagems aren't based around survivability, but in fact more firepower. Guard don't shoot with their 4-up accuracy, but they make up for that with just sheer amounts of numbers of shots.
Okay, so now that he's a sheer amounts of numbers, does this mean that like this shit's gonna be really expensive to build because you need like a ton of models? No, they're the Boomer Dad army. Wait, I kind of love that. Horde armies are always expensive. Yeah. You probably have to spend a ton of time painting it too, huh? Okay, so I'm gonna write this down. Don't build Imperial Guard. We cannot afford this. I will go into depth before I build one of these. Ooh.
Shots. I don't care if my tank hits on 4s when I've got fucking 3 of them. If the Marines are like the pristine Swiss Army knife where they can do anything and they have a little tool for every situation, Guard are like a Swiss Army knife that's about 10 times as big and attached to a big wooden stick that you just beat the shit out of people with. You're squishy, they don't hit great, but you've got so many of them that you just take people out by drowning them in gunfire. As for
wait, okay, random segue, but like I saw like some people say that you can 3D print these things. Are they like legit to use at local tournaments? 3D printing stuff? Is that like, do they actually let you? Because like Yu-Gi-Oh, they don't really let you use like proxies or anything. At tournaments, no. So if it's like you just want to play it at home, that's completely okay. Okay. How would they know? How can they tell though? They'll sue you? But like, how can they tell? They're nerds? Oh, printing. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like just thinking like, if they're just like plastic models, how does one tell that they're not like legit? ID codes? Oh wow, okay. That is kind of insane. You know, now that I think about it, the Warhammer store, right, that I went to, that was the first time I'd ever seen someone's ass crack before. Just right out there in public too. Tabletop Simulator. I might have to get Tabletop Simulator at this point in time, probably. Got burned by a bad lawsuit on this a while ago. Okay, you know what? That makes sense. Is Prince no one cares in friendly games? Yeah, you know what? That makes a ton of sense. Maybe I should just get like Tabletop Simulator at this point. The argument to get it is, you know, really compelling at this point.
For collecting the Guard, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Their models are a bit older than I'd like. I personally think that they could use a decent amount of updates, updated rules-wise, but since I've got so many different kinds of units and so many Forge World options, a lot of them are a bit old and are showing their age. As for collecting them in the money side, they're pretty expensive. You're going for a Horde army, so you're gonna have tons of models on the playing field. That being said, I still do love them. I love their lore and their design. I love the large swaths of infantry, and I personally think they are pretty fun, if maybe not the greatest army as a main army. The Adeptus Mechanicus are the war cult of Mars.
Oh, is this the Henry Cavill one? Locals will rarely care. You know what? That makes sense. We'll put into an army on the front page. Owner came out, so it was all 3D printed. Oh, this is a Leo one. Okay.
Very weird. And I've been over how weird they are plenty before, but they are probably one of the wackiest armies in the game, maybe along with Gene Stealer cults. The Identitas Mechanicus have a lot of really weird back and forth styles when it comes to their gameplay. They're mainly a shooting army. I'd say they're about 75% shooting, 25% melee. However, they do have a couple dedicated melee units that can hurt pretty bad, but
These look kind of insane. I'm sorry. Wait, what? Okay, these have to be like some like guys. I'm sorry. Is this like kind of a crazy look though? Is this like low key a crazy look though? Like nani?
they're much lower on the tier list compared to the amount of gunfire they can bring. They hit pretty well, generally hit on 3, sometimes 4s, depending on if they're using mechs or their own current bionics. But they do definitely have some of the wackier stuff. The entire army has a 6-up invulnerability save, so occasionally you get some pretty clutch moments when you start taking damage and you roll a couple dice and you get a couple 6s and you can shrug off like full-on missiles and stuff. So that is pretty cool. Like one of their base weapons is a really regular, kind of crappy carbine, but if you roll a 6 for it, it does double damage, which can actually be ludicrously powerful at times. Then you've got the weird robots, the Castellan robots, that they're these giant like World War I mech dudes that have a refractor field, so if they block off shots with their reflector invulnerable save, it'll launch back damage towards the enemy, which can be kind of crazy.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, you're right. Painting this one would honestly give me a heart attack. I'm not gonna lie. This is so intricately detailed. I could not. I genuinely could not. Holy shit.
Crazy. They're very strange. They definitely are quite strange. Much more shooting over melee and definitely fun. It has some great looking characters. Belisarius Call might be one of the best.
No, stop. This guy looks insane too. Also, I would be genuinely concerned because this part looks like it could break off. The part in the back looks like it could break off. The wand thing itself also looks like it's really like fragile. How do people with kids play this game? Because I feel like this would have... I feel like Warhammer models would need to be like locked up in a room, because if a rogue kid like wanders in, takes on the model and breaks it, you'd be like... My heart would shatter into a billion pieces. You lock them in cases. Oh my god. Dude. Oh, you can commission people to paint you? Like Gundams then. That's not too bad. I don't know who this guy is. Like, I don't know who this guy is specifically, but he looks like he would be easily breakable, and that puts like a little bit of anxiety in me. I don't even play this game, and I'm anxious looking at this guy. Oh.
Models in the entire game. Super cool looking too. A bitch to paint though. Oh my god. And that does lead me to the collecting of the AdMech part itself. They're actually getting a lot more newer updates lately. They're actually one of the newest armies as well. They came out only a couple years ago. All their stuff is in plastic and it looks really damn good. I personally think that they have best aesthetics.
That's sick. Whatever that is. I don't know what that is. I mean, it's like a plane or something, but that's sick. What the fuck? If I ever get into Warhammer, guys, I'm never having kids.
In the entire game, the only problem is that painting them is going to be a real bitch. I would recommend trying to do some of the simpler stuff, like maybe the Dune Crawler, before you get into things like Call or a Tech Priest Dominus, because wow, is painting that going to be really damn hard. Cost-wise, they are getting a bunch of new units, which is great, but generally when you get new units, they're very expensive, and whenever—
No, they get little robot horses? Stop, I love that. That is so cute. No, it's over for me, guys. I think it's over for me.
When new stuff comes out, it tends to be a bit expensive. The army isn't a horde, but it's also not an elite army, so they're probably in the mid-ground when it comes to price range. However, I would recommend them to people who like some kind of wacky antics and some weird abilities and weaponry, because AdMech has been getting better and better as time goes on, and they're pretty dang cool to mid-tier price, maybe a little bit more expensive, but their scopes look great and they're very new, and I would highly recommend them. Next up, you've got the Adepta Sororitas, or also Sisters of Battle, my second favorite army.
This is the one that you guys like.
They are really coming up to overtaking the Imperial Guard. I love my Guard, I love my Cadians, I love my Tempesta Scions, but the Sisters of Battle, they're really cool. Not only from a lore perspective, they're just insanely religious, zealotous nuns. That already is just really cool. As for the tabletop, they're one of the closest range armies in the entire game that isn't a full-on melee army. They're a slow-moving, like advancing gun line
Okay, stop. Those what are those chainsaw swords are so cool. Also, that one lady, the whip gives me anxiety again because that whip looks like it's easily breakable. If anyone in the chat owns like one of those like models with like the whip out there, is it easily broken off? Genuine question.
Army with some actually horrifying melee units and just some like ridiculous close range firepower. The Sisters are probably one of the top 3 hardest armies to play, I'd say. They've got some really weird antics as well, kind of like Admech, maybe not quite as wacky. This army can be played in almost any way as well. You can do this a full gunline army or a full melee army or 50-50. Everything is viable. They do require a lot of finesse and manipulation because these are all low toughness sisters that do have good armor, but when you've got a low toughness, like
wait, I just looked at it. Do you actually have to paint the words on here too? Like you have to paint I'm assuming you gotta paint everything else, but you gotta paint the words on too? Oh, okay. Thank God I'm a brokey, guys.
They do, and they're not necessarily the most powerful when it comes to the actual punching. They can actually be shot off pretty quickly. So you need to be really smart on how you maneuver them because you've got a super short range, kind of squishy army at times. That can be a little bit challenging to get through. That being said, people are sleeping on the power of Sisters. Let me be the first one to say it. You are all sleeping on how strong this army is.
Okay, whatever this thing is in the back also looks like it can be easily broken. And with how intricately detailed it is and how much like time you realistically have to spend painting this thing, I'd be heart fucking broken. Holy shit.
This army, if played well by a smart person, will crush you. As for the actual collecting of them all, Sisters are the most recent army, at least as the time of making this video, who have had a complete army overhaul. For a while, there were no plastic sister models whatsoever, but the entire army, besides I think one unit, got a full overhaul of models. Everything is brand spanking new, and they probably have the best looking models in the entire game, in my opinion. They look incredible. That crazy gothic, kind of Catholic nun look. I mean, come on, their tank is a pipe organ missile launcher. It's a pipe organ.
No way. Wait, really? Yo, the sheer amount of anxiety that I would have having to carry this, or like if having to like carry this around with me would be like insane. That is really cool though. That is really fucking cool. No way. You can change the plastic stuff out with a brass rod to protect. Really? This is so cool. This is really nice. Okay, I think the more I think about it more, I'm like, okay, I think I've decided what I want to do in terms of like Warhammer, and that is I will buy some of the Space Marine models just to like, you know, paint and display. But I think the meat of it would be me getting like Audible, reading like audiobooking the books, and probably buying like the old like Warhammer games to play. Cause like actually playing the actual like game aspect of it seems, I don't know, it seems a little stressful, I'm not gonna lie. Right? Yeah, it feels very involved. I'm not saying I don't have the drive to do it. I'm just saying I don't know if I've got the time to do it. Or like the energy to run like Yu-Gi-Oh, Vanguard, Warhammer.
Organ missile launcher. Sisters are one of the coolest looking armies in the entire game.
That's so sick though. What the fuck?
That's the one downside, is that because this entire army is brand new, it is brand new with a brand new price tag. So I personally love them. They might soon become my favorite army. I can't quite tell yet. They look great. They're a little expensive to collect. They have lots of different kinds of abilities, both melee and shooting. No psychic phase, but they do have some shenanigans to stop other people from using the psychic phase. They're pretty cool, but they are really hard to play, and they take a lot of practice. So kind of up to you. I would say not a very good starting army, but they are pretty neat. All right, Grey Knights, I heard you like the psychic phase. If you like the psychic phase, this is the psychic phase for you. Grey Knights are Space Marines X2. They're super mega duper elite Space Marines that are all psychers. They're nuts. Grey Knights are insane. They are very, very elite.
I hate that at this point in my life, every time I pause, it's because I've seen a model that I want to look at a little bit more because this shit looks like it'd be tough to paint. Look at this one big guy. Every time I pause, it's just because I've seen like a model that I know is gonna be insanely like complicated. So I'm assuming, right? Because I've never actually seen like Warhammer like box. I mean, I've seen box kits, but I've never seen like the inside of it. So I'm assuming that like it's kind of like a gunpla where like everything is like where you have to build it yourself, right? This would take so much time. Like I knew a guy who built gunpla for like a living, right? And he would like spray paint each piece before like putting them together. I'm sorry, they're called the baby carriers. Hero games like Left 4 Dead, I recommend Dark Tide. I've seen, the reason why I'm into Warhammer is because I've seen like one of my friends, like boyfriends, play Warhammer Space Marines too. And I was like, yo, this game looks kind of sick. Like I wanna get into it. And then the more I like watched my friend's boyfriend play it, right? Because I mean, you know, it's not weird. We're in a Discord call together. We were just all chilling, hanging out. It's not that weird. But they started talking more about the lore. And then I was like Googling it out of interest, and I was like, wait, this is actually kind of interesting. But also like oh no, I get it now. Wait, hold up. Is that a guy that's just strapped to a mech? Are those his little feet? Then the rest of it's just mech? I love it. It's so funny. Why is it so goofy? I'm sorry. But someone in the chat probably really loves these guys. But why does it look so goofy? I'm sorry. No fucking way. I love him. He's so funny.
However, you have probably like maybe 40% fewer models than an average army will have. All of your dudes, however, are scary in their own right. They all hit very well on 3s minimum. They all have great armor. Since they're all psychers, they're really good at dealing with other psychers. They also have great shooting and very strong melee. All of your guys have extremely powerful melee weapons. The only downside to Grey Knights is that any
Yo, no. Look at the words. Oh my god. You're really gonna have to like paint the hell out of this thing, huh? Have a sense of humor? Okay. It's so funny. It's actually so interesting and it's so funny. I love it.
Shenanigans can really harm them, and you are running an elite army with very few models. When you run very few models, that means every time you're rolling and you roll those ones, it hurts that much more. Grey Knights, though, they have this awesome kind of old school knight round table aesthetic with them all carrying things like halberds and falchions. They've got holy text and they carry books around and flags, but they do get to use every phase as well. Lots of psychic, and then they're shooting and a ton of melee as well. Mainly psychic and melee. In terms of buying them, they're not too bad actually. They're probably one of the cheaper armies as well because when you're running an army, not as many models on the team.
No, do you have to paint the flag too? Is the flag something that you'd have to paint on your own? Really? Oh wow. Is it like a, you know, those like paint by numbers kind of situation, or do you actually just have to like decide on the color and paint it yourself? Because that is insane. Okay. So nothing would stop me from painting whatever on there, even if I were to paint something really dumb. Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like a decal. Can you like buy this? But also like look at the detail. Like there's like ripples in the flag. Like that looks insane. Then pick up your brush. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm just here thinking like, wow, you know, a lot of detail goes into this. Like I think I appreciate Warhammer a little bit more now because of the amount of detail that goes into like the models. Like the game itself, like, you know, that shit looks cool, that shit looks fire. The models though are really fucking sick. Holy shit. Yeah, like realistically, could I just put like, I don't know, fucking yaoi art of like, I don't know, the Emperor and someone else? I can just do whatever I want? The image, the image is made into a plastic. You know what? That makes sense. That makes sense. Guys, I'm not gonna do like fucking yaoi art like the Emperor or whatever. You know, I'm just saying, you know, whatever. No, we're not gonna do an Ahegao banner either. That's crazy. But okay. So realistically, that could happen though, right? Because why would I do that? That's kind of insane.
It's a lot easier to fill out your entire army by only purchasing many or fewer boxes than normal.
Okay.
As for their sculpts, I don't know exactly how new they are. I wouldn't call them very new. I call them like middle ground when it comes to
But they look so cool.
They're not super old, but they're not necessarily super new either. That being said, if they are, say, medium old or whatever, they do look great. I love the way the plastic models look. I think they look fantastic, and I will grind them out if you like a Psyker-heavy Space Marine thing. You play Space Marines and you're like, wow, I like the psychic phase. Grey Knights, no competition. Infantry is for losers. It's big mech boy time.
Big mech boy time! There's a line scouting. There's a keeper of secrets with a noticeable third leg. That's crazy. Like Bricky having a character with a dog head. Honestly, Ahegao Banner would be so funny. What if it was just Cat Girl? What if it was like Cat Girl the Emperor? Or like Cat Girl fucking Horus?
If I'm being honest though, the Imperial Knights, I wouldn't recommend them. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't think Imperial Knights are a very good army for a new player. They are one of the cheapest armies you can buy because while each knight in its own right is very expensive, you only need 3 or 4 to fill out an entire game's worth. And compared that to a full army, they're actually not too bad, like price-wise. The problem with these is that as cool as they are, they want to use the psyche phase. They have plenty of shooting, though, plenty of shooting. And they can have some really great melee. But when you're playing Imperial Knights, you're not really playing 40k. A great friend said, if you're playing Imperial Knights, you're playing chess. But you have about 6 queens against a normal enemy chess player. If the enemy chess player is smart, they could easily beat your 6 queens. I'm sure it'll be pretty simple for them to use their full arsenal to beat you. But if the enemy chess player is a noob, for instance, then there's a good chance that they're not going to be able to win, and you'll just kind of noob stomp them. And that's what knights are. Knights are more like just a middle tier army. They're not good for new players because they don't really teach you the game, and it's not the way the game is really, I don't know how to say it, meant to be played, so to speak. I got nothing against knight players. If you're a knight player, it's totally. If you run a knight valiant, you have nothing but my respect. All right, get that knight valiant, 2-up armor, 4-up invul, trader's pyre.
Bro, this looks like a lot to paint. Also, oh my goodness. Okay, the big models look really intense.
Oh, you can't have both. Just have trader's pyre, the coolest weapon in the game. All right, but honestly, just for a new player,
Never mind, that one looks sick.
I recommend knights. They are cool. They're great painting projects. However,
I just want to say it. That flag hanging down between his legs, you know, it's low-hanging fruit. I'm just saying. I could paint whatever I want on the flag that's hanging down below his crotch. Am I right? And there's nothing stopping me from painting whatever I want. Oh, you know what? I wouldn't. Now, if it's like really expensive, no. But if it's like for the memes, I fucking do it. Like, I draw my own like VTuber model. I draw my own face down there. Like, on fucking God, I do it because I think it's funny.
If you just want to paint something, definitely pick up a knight for that. They look great. You're not really playing 40k when you play Imperial Knights. You're playing kind of a weird hybrid of it. If anything, get a normal army like say Imperial Guard or maybe Space Marine, and then buy one big knight and throw it into your army as an ally. That would be the way to do it, I'd say. I think they're better as a supplementary character as opposed to a main army or force. This is also the same for Chaos Knights as well. They do look really cool though. They do look.
They just showed us 3 different ones. Oh, the temptation. This is insane.
Golden Boys. Adeptus
Henry Cavill.
Custodians are the elite of the elite. This is probably one of the most elite armies you could possibly play. These guys are nuts. They hit on 2s or higher in shooting and melee. They have triple the health of a normal Space Marine. They have a better armor save than a normal Space Marine. They all have invulnerable refractor fields around them, which most armies do not have. They're tougher than Marines. They get to reroll 1s in the shooting and melee phase when a certain captain is near them, which means they're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. You absolutely murder people in melee. You've got some okay shooting. Your shooting is hit or miss, but your melee is insane, and you use about 20 models. They are literally the definition of Chad Thundercock, okay? Chad Thundercock, if that was a human being, it would be a custodian, okay?
Stop, that's crazy.
Is that you only have 15, 20, 25 models in your entire army. It is absolutely crazy how powerful these guys are, but they do pay the price for it. That being said, when it comes to collecting them, they are one of the cheapest armies you can buy. Because they're so elite, you don't need as many things to purchase, you don't need as many models to have on the field, so buying custodians is much cheaper than your average army. It's an elite army, and also they're much easier to paint in my opinion because they're so big, because they're like 2 feet taller than a Space Marine. Lots of a big canvas for your painting, and they're almost all gold. Gold isn't that hard to paint, I wouldn't say. So they're good for painting. They're not very expensive. I would say they're not bad at beginner army, if I'm being honest. They're pretty cool. They have a nice kind of power fantasy to them. But as an elite army, every one you roll is gonna really hurt. So that's something you should be worried about or warned about.
Yeah, like hella Pillarman vibes, huh? Also, this thing looks crazy. Like this a staff wand thingy. If it breaks, 07's in the chat because a piece of me would die.
At least. They are pretty neat though. I'm not going to touch on the Assassins, Sisters of Silence, or Inquisition too much because they're not really an actual army. The Assassins are really damn cool. There's 4 of them and you get to pick one to add to your army as you see fit. They all have different things they do and specialize in. A sniper, a horde clear, a kind of confusion specialist, and an anti-psyker character. Cool, their scopes are really nice, and since they're only single characters, not too expensive, but you really can't make an army out of them. They're more of a supplementary character. The Sisters of Silence just recently got an update to allow you to field them with custodians, which is awesome and super cool and is actually kind of a big part of them because the Sisters of Silence are big anti-psyker, but they only have maybe 2 kits, 3 kits in their entire army, and that's about it. They're not really worth collecting in their own right unless you're already collecting custodians. And the Inquisition are a whole bunch of just little characters, a whole bunch of named characters with cool abilities, which are neat. But
wait, I love it. He looks like every old like battle-worn guy in every anime. You know the one I'm talking about. And he's just a dude. He doesn't even look like he has anything mechy about him. He's just a guy. Oh my god.
But not really something that I would try to get a whole bunch of. Look at all 3 of those things after you're already starting collecting another.
You're right. He looks like he retired like a week ago, and they were like, nope, we need you to come back right now. Eisenhorn, that's his name? Ooh, okay.
Army, and you're like, hey, I kind of want an assassin. Throw an assassin in. Unless you're playing custodians, then check out the Sisters of Silence because the custodian's biggest weakness is psychic, and the sisters do a great job at cutting that down. All right, let's move on to Chaos.
Eisenhorn.
So we got the Chaos Demons to start off with. Chaos Demons are one of 4 gods.
Let's go.
Zeke, or Slanesh Big T. With Slanesh Big T, you're going for melee and fast. You are all melee, you've got no shooting, you got good psychic spells, but you're running in there at Mach 5. Papa Nurgle is slow but tanky as hell. Zeke, a little bit in between, but tons of psychic spells. Korn, no psychic. Melee hits like a truck. Pretty much all of the Chaos Demon factions are glass cannons and very heavy into melee. You got some good psychers for about 3 of the 4, because Korn I don't think has any. So there is still plenty of variety in there, but what you're doing is you got a whole bunch of big glass cannon demons that...
Guys, if I played this and this broke off during like transport, I would absolutely cry. This is so big, this is so intricate, and like, holy shit, these ones are so intricate. What the fuck?
Run up and just break your face. That's Chaos Demons in a nutshell. They all have their various traits. Sledge is fast and hits a lot of times. Nurgle is tanky, which is Psyker. Korn hits really hard. Pretty simple in that sense, but overall, Chaos Demons, to collect them, they're not something you would really collect by themselves.
Yeah, I don't want that.
You would ally them in with things like Chaos Space Marines, which were...
I'm not hating on Nurgle, I just feel like this would be really hard to explain to anyone. Yeah, no, I know you can glue it back, but still, I feel like the moment that you find out that it's broken, my heart would sink to my stomach.
We're going to be talking about in just a moment, but as an army in their own right, don't try to make a demon army, I wouldn't say. They don't teach you a ton of the game, and they're a little bit limited because you have to stick with one Chaos faction normally. If you want to ally in multiple things, you're probably going to need some Chaos Space Marines to go along with it, and with that, let's talk about that. Chaos Space Marines, you're kind of getting the butt end of Games Workshop. They don't really seem to like you, Chaos, that much. I don't know why. A lot of your models aren't very new, and a lot of them are expensive, and your rules aren't that great most of the time, with the exception of something that happened in 7th edition with Chaos Demons, apparently. I heard it was a very, very strong codex. Chaos Space Marines are very similar to regular Space Marines, but they're much more focused on melee combats. You still have shooting, and it depends on which faction you're going through as well. But while you do have your shooting units, it is generally more melee based, I'd say. Demons in their own right and Chaos in their own right want to run in there and start breaking face. That's generally...
Is that kind of pink? Wait, are they pink? I don't know about I don't know if I like the blue, but the pink though. Hell yeah! Wait, I don't really want like Chaos Space Marines. It's okay. We'll have to... They're kind of girly pop. I do love that.
Their MO. As for Chaos Space Marines, it depends on what Legion you're joining, but overall, there are a ton of different ways for you to go ahead and get about completing your objective. The Death Guard and the Thousand Suns, I believe, are the most fleshed out. They both have their own codexes.
Okay.
They both have their own special units, especially Death Guard. Death Guard is very recent, and both of them allow you to feel the Primarch, which might be one of the coolest parts about.
This one on the left is really cool. Oh my god. There's no way people actually carry this around with them, right? The one on the left? Do people actually carry this one around? It looks heavy. It looks like it would be heavy. This is Nurgle? Mortarion, the Stinky Reaper. People actually do carry this around? Ooh. Oh, he's a Primarch. Okay. It looks heavy. Oh my god. If I ever play Warhammer 40k, I need to get a boyfriend who will carry my models for me. We've cracked the code, gamers. This is why we get you know, a partner in the future, so that someone will carry my Primarch for me.
You can run Mortarion.
Stop, you're right. This is the Tusk Nipple guy. Oh, I didn't even look at it that right. He does have his titty tusk. Okay, guys. I wasn't familiar with his game. Now I am. Now I get it.
Or Magnus the Red, both gigantic, beautiful models that are just awesome showpieces to have. They get shot a lot, but once they get into combat, oh man, do they cause problems. As stated before, you should be building what you like, of course. What you enjoy is the most important part of it. But as for Chaos, it's really, you gotta like melee combat, and you gotta like different kinds of allying, probably. I'd say demons aren't, not demons, but Chaos in general isn't a great faction
that one looks
to start
cool.
off with as a new player, because you need to understand the intricacies of how to do army building and knowing what you're running a little bit more prevalently. And so I'd wait on doing anything Chaos related, at least until they get a solid update, or someone teaches you, or you get a little more into the hobby. With the exception of Death.
Wait, I'm gonna go look up. What's his name again? Fulgrim, right? Fulgrim Primarch, the model. Let's go look at it real quick. Is it cool? I don't know if I want it. I don't know. I don't like snakes. Oh, hold up. Let me just open image in new tab. Yeah, guys, I don't know. I don't know if I like snakes that much. Okay. It looks cool though. It looks really fucking fire. Oh, isn't this the one who like got corrupted by like Slanesh or something? Not that one, another one? What do I look at specifically if we're being like really specific? He has two. New 40k. I think they hate me. Is it this one? There's this one that they're showing. Nope. Okay, so we're just gonna try again. This is still 30k. Okay. Slanesh's fabulous flex. New Fulgrim model versus old. Okay, this should have the new one then. Come on, bestie. Is this the new one? Oh! Yo, that looks fire. Oh, that looks so cool. I still don't know if I'd ever like get this though, but like it looks really nice. It looks really sick. What the hell?
I think Death Guard is in a good place for a new player because Death Guard is pretty cool. But besides that, they're a little tough. Okay, let's talk about some Xenos, starting off with the Space Elves, the Eldar. So the Eldar are definitely a more glass cannon-y kind of style group. They are the first Xenos.
So this is Eldar before the corruption.
We're talking about, and there are a couple of versions. There's also the Drukhari and the Harlequins. However, the Eldar, they are strike hard, strike fast, and get out of there immediately. So
wait, this is after? So is this like, okay. Oh, these are the Eldar. So this is the Craftworld gang then. So this is the Craftworld gang. They're not the ones who got corrupted. Okay.
The thing about Eldars, what would happen is they would fly out of somewhere, immediately gun down with extremely high-powered weaponry, hitting on threes with some kind of BS stratagems, if I'm being honest, and then they can zip back into cover. And really, honestly, Eldar probably have some of the more powerful shenanigans when it comes to the game. They have lots of weird rules. Their stuff hits extremely hard, but of course, once you fire back at them, if you live, they will crumble under a slight breeze too.
Okay.
If you play Eldar, you won't be making a bunch of friends, if I'm being honest. I'd say Eldar are top 3 most aggravating enemies to fight
Really?
against. People don't like fighting Eldar a whole lot, myself included. I find them to be quite aggravating. But if you're that kind of person who likes zip in, zip out, and be all kind of trickery and sneaky, they're definitely the army for you. They're definitely more shooting and psychic based. That's the 2 main things. They've got some good melee, but mainly shooting and psychic based. As for collecting Craft World Eldar, I'd say that they got some good sculpts. Some of their models look pretty good. They got some nice plastic. A few of it's a little bit older, but you don't need a huge army. So when it comes to the money side of it, not too bad. I'd say the financials for it are pretty dang solid, and I wouldn't call them an expensive army to collect, at least not from my knowledge. The Dark Eldar, or the Drukhari, are like Eldar cranked up to 12. They're faster, they can hit harder at some points, and they have really good melee units. Their melee units can actually be really scary, but they are also doubly made of paper. They're also a lot harder to play. They're probably top 3 hardest armies to play, along with the Sisters of Battle. And that actually goes on to the Harlequins as well.
I didn't even know there was a Harlequin faction. Damn.
Harlequins are an army that just don't collect Harlequins, if I'm being honest. They're not a great choice. They have barely any models, and they're really weird, and they have a lot of shenanigans if you want to pull them off. If you're a new player, I would not recommend Harlequins at all. Dark Eldar, and Harlequins, speedy, made of paper, hit like absolute trucks, and not too expensive, I wouldn't say. Drukhari, I think, is a little bit more expensive than the other 2, but
they look
not
cool.
Too pricey because you don't field a ton of units in your armies. Moving on, we got Tyranids, bugs.
Bugs!
Bugs. You gotta love those bugs. So many bugs. Now, Tyranids obviously are a horde army. It should be very obvious. They are also a melee horde army. Whoa, I know, call the presses. You are mainly spending your time in the melee phase, as well as some of the psychic phase. You got a lot of good psychers in the Tyranids army, funny enough. You've got some pretty involved and advanced bugs. And your melee phase is as it seems. You have really gigantic, gargantuan creatures that eat everything alive, or you've got 40,000 little boys that eat everything alive. You do actually have some somewhat good shooting too with your Exocrine and your Hive Guard.
Wait, this one looks really intricate. This looks really cool, but also like really hard to paint. What the heck? I actually like the bugs. I think the bugs are like good vibes. Like I think they're just like, they might be my favorite of all the villains, just because their entire backstory is just hunger, you know? Their entire thing is just, I wanna kill, and that's it. They hangry. And it's so simple. It's like everyone else has deep motivations, and it's just, hee, I'm a bug and I'm hungry. That makes so much sense. I love them. I think they're great.
You put out some pretty decent shots. They are definitely the kind of army you run if you want big swaths of just these angry little running bug dudes that just swarm on your enemy. It's literally called the Tyranid Swarm. As for price-wise, though, I'd say they're actually very, very expensive to collect.
What?
Their scopes are, some are a little bit older, but not all of them. They're a little bit in between when it comes to the actual date release for their scopes. I'd say they are a bit older.
Okay, this guy kind of looks like Cho'Gath, but you know, with like the snake tail. Oh, you know what? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's a horde army. That's why you need a ton of them. Okay, I just want to get one of them so I can paint him like Hello Kitty colors, you know?
Though they are expensive. They're expensive, and you're running a horde army, so that's definitely one of the top more expensive armies to collect because come on, tons of bugs. Tons of models and older scopes. Can be a little bit of a challenge.
I mean,
Genestealer cults. You want to play bugs, but you want to play human bugs with scrotum heads.
What?
Genestealer cults are a very new addition. Very, very new. And they run in this almost as weird as AdMech style army. They're very fast, they hit really hard, and they like dip underground, they crawl from underground, they shoot with very powerful powerful short-range weaponry and super strong melee attack, and then they kind of run away, and they're like hit and run tactics. That's probably the best way to do it. Hit and run tactics. They come out of the ground.
This one too,
then. They do a bunch of damage. They run away. They got some weird psychic spells here and there. They run these like makeshift Mad Max trucks and stuff. They definitely have a unique play style. They deploy strangely. They like to zip around the place kind of strangely, and they definitely are one of the more unique armies there are.
Okay.
When collecting them, no. They kind of fulfill a niche, but they're not that like overarching special, I'd say. I don't know the word.
The lore is
exactly,
fucked up.
They are a very specific play style for a very specific player. If you're running Tyranids, you might consider doing, but at that point, you already kind of know what you're doing, so I don't think I recommend this to a new player. Cults and Tyranids both a little bit rough to recommend to a new person because they are very expensive, both of them. And while the models for Genestealer cults are definitely a lot newer and that's much nicer, they need practice. They are definitely a harder army, and I would recommend waiting on those if you're a new player.
Ooh, orcs!
Orcs. I would say orcs are great if you like the Horde army and you like having RNG dictate your life. So orcs hit on 5s, as I mentioned in my last video. However, if you roll a 6, you get to make another attack with the weapon. Everything from the little pistol to the giant rocket launcher.
No, that sounds like it'd be hell. If you're a generally unlucky person, this sounds like it would fuck you up. I love orcs though. Fuck.
You can have a rocket launcher that fires 3 times, and if you get lucky enough, you can have it fire 5 times. But the main thing that you're probably going to be jumping with orcs for is the giant green tide, because their melee ability is pretty humongous. They have gunfire, they got their weird weapons and their strange rules, the daka rules, to allow them to get all these extra shots, and they can even have some pretty dang good shooting with things like shock attack guns and daka jets and stuff. If orcs hit on 5, they hit on like 3s in melee. Orcs love to beat the hell out of each other. So it's very obvious that once they get into melee, they'll just start pounding on you because they are really good at hitting stuff. In fact, I might be speaking a little bit too hyperbolically when I say RNG controls your life with orcs. Or RNG controls your shooting, but your melee is actually pretty dang good. They've got a special ability called Here We Go, which allows them to re-roll their charge dice, which is a very rare thing and extremely powerful buff. Getting into melee has never been easier.
No, that sounds so cute. What the heck?
Collecting orcs, expensive. Probably the most expensive Horde army there is. Probably more expensive than Tyranids or Guard or anything in between. They have scopes that are sometimes new, sometimes very old. You can have cool new models like Gaskell Throp, but then you got a whole bunch of really damn old orc models because orcs have been around.
I'm just gonna say it. If this thing is painted Hello Kitty style, this would be so fucking cute. Oh, it's so, I like orcs so much. I like them so much. Oh man. Okay, never mind.
Around forever. Their codex in their own right is pretty neat, and there's some pretty good models in there, but orcs they're showing their age, and you need a shitload of them. And they are very expensive for that reason. So they're expensive to collect, and you need a ton to collect a good-sized army. But playing them, if you like melee with some really fun shenanigans and a bit of RNG, I can see why someone would like orcs, because they're orcs. Come on, they're great.
I love orcs.
Necrons. So the Necrons, if I had to pick a Xenos army, I'd play Necrons, honestly. Necrons, I mean, they're just so cool. Undead, Egyptian, skeleton robots that carry enslaved gods into battle. How is that the coolest thing ever? So Necrons are
they do
about necromancy, but not like the undead homina necromancy, but like necromancy through metal. So the way Necrons are is that they are kind of a slow moving, at least some of their units slow moving, with some mixed in melee units. Not all their army is melee, but their melee units that they have are actually like really scary. But for a while, they're kind of slow-moving Terminator-style guys. They just blast you away at a distance with some very powerful weaponry. They kind of have Space Marine stat lines, actually. They run about as many models as Space Marines. They got similar stat lines and similar weaponry. I'd say that they're actually quite similar to Space Marines in the terms of how they play. But they actually do have a lot of weird shenanigans that make Necrons their own. For instance, the main thing you might want to pick Necrons for is their reanimation protocols. Special ability that, let's say you got 10 units of your base Necron unit, warriors, for instance. You got 10 Necron warriors, your basic troop choice. Your opponent kills like, let's say 7. Kills 7 of them, you got 3 of them left. Their turn ends, your turn starts. You then roll a dice for every dead model. So 7 models, 7 dice. And for every 5 or higher, you automatically get one of your models to just stand right back up. Your Necrons, your vehicles regenerate health as time goes on. You have special abilities to maybe make your Necrons come back on a 4-up instead of a 5. You can re-roll your 1s for it. It's all about getting your units to come back up and being like, if you're fighting Necrons, you better kill it. Because if you leave it wounded, it's going to repair itself, and that's not a very good thing. That's the idea of Necrons. They got good shooting, they got good melee, and honestly, now is a good time to be a Necron player. They are getting a massive update right now. This is right before 9th when this video is coming out, and they are getting huge new model ranges, a ton of just new units in general, massive updates, rule updates. Necrons are getting big additions, and I think it's going to be super
This one in the back, whatever this is, looks so cool. Like, I don't know how it's being held up like that, but it looks insanely sick. This, like, temple thing, also very cool. Like, a lot of this is really, it looks really interesting. I really like it. Also, I don't know if this is gonna, like, show my age, but low-key, why does this look like Bionicle? If you know what Bionicle...
Great. Now is a good time to be a Necron player. The new stuff might be a little expensive to collect because it is new stuff. That being said, they're not an elite army, but I guess they can be played an elite army if they wanted to, but they don't have a few models, they don't have too many models, they're nice in between, and now is a damn good time for it. Last but not least, we have the Tau Empire. The Tau Empire is for people who want to gun their opponent down.
This is the one that for the longest time, I thought this was like some form of like Star Wars. For a really long time, I thought this was like some form of like Star Wars.
With the most sci-fi, hardcore Gundam giant mech stuff you can think of. You want to have your entire enemy obliterated off the board through just the unrelenting volley of railgun shots and rail rifles and blasters. You will look up and you will see missiles, giant homing missiles, blot out the sky as it rains down on your army because the Tau player's got 40,000 missile pods on all of his characters.
Yo, what the fuck?
He's got flying drones to fire laser sights to mark them, to have better accuracy, to block shots, and you know, your big battle suit will be rolling up and then a drone will come in and block a missile from it. The Tau are definitely more of an Eastern-inspired, definitely a Gundam kind of look to them.
Yeah.
And they are just ludicrously powerful.
Is that why you called it, you guys were saying weebs in the chat? Because they look like Gundams? I actually do see it. Now that you've mentioned it, I do see it. So this is the army for the weebs then. Okay, so you're not the good guys. If you're a Tau player, you're not a good guy. They speak like Japanese in lore. Oh, okay. So you're like Japanese inspired fish people.
Shooting phase. And they also have tons of special abilities to stop your opponent from getting to you in the charge phase. Tau has no melee. Their melee is straight garbage. When a Tau infantry start punching, it means they've lost. And you might think to yourself, wow, Berkey, this sounds great and aggravating. Yep, that's about right. The Tau get a lot of shit. Some of it warranted, some of it not so warranted. The models in their own right definitely don't fit very well with 40k. They're much more of a sci-fi Gundam style thing compared to a gothic, grimdark sci-fi fantasy.
But I do like
However,
them.
I do think they do look pretty cool in their own right. It's just kind of weird in this universe. But when you've got an entire army whose whole job is to blast you away from incredible ranges across the map, and every time you even try to retaliate, they either gun you down when you try to charge, or they block your shots with drones. It's pretty aggravating. That being said, there are really cool new ways to play Tau, like close range attacks with Cold Star battle suits in the Farside enclaves, which, by the way, if you ever use a Cold Star battle suit, or a Cold Star commander, I suppose, or a Yavara, you have my respect. So you do have different options when it comes to Tau instead of just sit back and fire, but you definitely don't got much melee. You definitely don't got much melee. You suck at melee. But if you just want to gun people down and the only phase you care about is the shooting phase, you don't care about psyche, you don't care about melee, you just want to blast people, Tau is definitely for you. As it comes for collecting them, their scopes are pretty good. They're not entirely super new, but they do look great. They have a whole bunch of different kinds of mechs, big and small. They got drones, big and small. They got infantry.
I actually think that, yeah, I do see the Gundam in it, because looking at it right now, I feel less intimidated to buy one of these and paint than I do the other the Adeptus stuff, right? This one feels a little less intimidating, honestly.
Infantry units and everything. They do look solid, high tech, and their scopes do look nice. They're also, I'd say, not too expensive. You don't need a ton of them, and the battle suits themselves are expensive for each box, but you only need so many of them because they are very expensive when it comes to the points cost in the game. So Tower on the middle level of the expensive tier. Whew, that was a lot of talking right there. Covers it though. That is every army in 40K for you trying to figure out which army you want to play. I will reiterate, Space Marines, they are the best. I know it kind of sucks for some of us, but trust me, they are the best. I would highly recommend if you're trying to get into it, get a box of Intercessors, check out the rules, paint them up maybe. 9th edition is coming very, very soon. It looks extremely promising, and I think now is probably the best time to be jumping into this hobby. I want more people to be a part of this community, to be a part of this fandom. I think it is exciting. I think it has a little something for everyone, and I don't.
Okay, guys. If you hear crying in the back, that's my wallet.